Welcome back to Low End University. I've been hearing the name Dillinger Four constantly since I began covering punk rock in the comments and requests, and I finally got to hear them a couple months ago on a live stream over on Patreon. And I dug what I heard. I need to hear more, but I was happy to see that our patrons also voted the band's song, Folk Song, into first place last month, which is from the band's third studio album, Situationist Comedy, not Situational Comedy. It was released in 2002. Off we go. Gotta be bass. Yeah, pretty cool bass tone. Chug, 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 chug. Really unique bass tone. It doesn't sound like your typical bass with distortion on it. That kind of has its own sound. Of course, that's not specific, or there's no absolutism there. But it kind of has more of that guitar type tone on being played on bass. And I find the tone to be, at least on that first listen, to be kind of similar to the guitar tone. So the song started off with bass. I'm 95% sure. I've been wrong on this before. Let's assume it's bass. The guitar tones came in, and I was like, the tones on the guitar are very similar. So it almost sounds like two bass parts from that bass, like if there was a higher part that came in. So it had this really thick, gritty kind of thing happening, but not like super sizzly. Still had some like fidelity to the tone. Interesting, just drive choice. I'm gonna go back and hear it. We're here in D major. It kind of had this open D string, and then go all the way up the scale, and it sounds really cool on bass. So really epic, uplifting. So not quite as like sliding, but just kind of, because now I hear, what would that be? Hey, there's also a trick I've seen bass players do where they do this D string thing, but since they don't have a note higher than the G to do this same thing on, see, I'm on the second to last string, but I'm using the top string as my melody. If I'm on the G string for my lowest string, I don't have a higher string unless I'm on a sixth string, so you can use the G string and go backwards and put notes on the D string, so, and then do this. So now I'm using the higher notes on the D string. So it's kind of like a cheat code for that. No idea if that's being done here, it just kind of reminded me of that. Up to B minor there for a second. Okay. Something chills out here. Nope. This isn't a predictable progression in terms of the way it moves. It's not. It's not all on downbeat. There's a lot of movement. There's kind of this. So to pick that up, it'll take me a few listens, but it's still pretty upbeat, major, poppy. Okay. I like that even when it's all together, you can still hear the bass. This isn't one of those cases where, you know, this big upfront bass thing comes in and then the song comes in and you just kind of lose it, which happens more often than you'd think. There's There's always like, let's turn the bass up a little bit for the intro, and once everything comes in, we got to pull it back down and kind of nestle it in the mix. And I try to take a segment in every video to kind of get the tone right. That's such a unique drive. I just don't know if this drive channel is the right match for that. It still has a lot of bass, so you don't have that typical like overdrive, all the bass just kind of falls out. It's kind of thin and cold. It still has a warmness to it, so it could be like bi-amped. I would not scoop this. Like if you go back to the beginning, oops, there's still very much that crunchy mid-range. I might even boost that, but I would probably take a lot of high end out. It doesn't have like a P bass sound to me. I mean, you never know when you really process a tone, but it has a bit of a thinner character, not EQ. Again, there's still a good bit of low end, low mids, I should say. So if I took off my precision pickup, maybe leaned a bit more towards my jazz pickup, that's kind of in the ballpark of where I would land here. Maybe a little more crunch on the drive. But you got to be careful with the treble, otherwise it gets really sizzly and that's still way more kind of like, it's got that ripping paper kind of sound to it. Again, I consider all day, but just to get something kind of more lively in that vein, I'm going to stick with that. Let's go back to the middle of the song. Not too long of a song, 2.5 minutes. Cool. I love when I can hear it more by itself. I just got done saying it doesn't sound like a P bass, but sometimes certain ranges of the where the player plays gives it away. It didn't sound like it too much up here, but something about the way a P bass sounds on these lower notes, it very well could be. So I'm going to put the P pickup back just as it gets lower. It has a bit more of that character. You can really hear that kind of, I'm not going to say signature P bass sound because I don't know for sure, but it has that kind of warbly bottom end. You don't hear it as much as he goes higher. Okay, little bass break. Same key, just different. I feel like the bass has lived up here a lot. So this is kind of another instance of saving the lower range for a certain part of the song. It really signifies transition. I might put a little more edge in. I might be able to get something a bit more close. Let's see. I just got to be careful with the treble, especially as I put more edge, which is like the sizzle of the overdrive channel. Whole different tempo here. I almost missed it. I love these kind of like, you hear that ringing in the background? It gives it this kind of eerie, like it would be too empty, I think, if it was just that bass sound by itself, which already signifies it's going to be energetic, the tone's aggressive, but I love this kind of right here. The feedback of the guitars. What's that interval? It's not a typical major sound. It almost sounds like a major 7 interval, like it's or 6th or something. I can't quite hear it. Let's focus on the bass, but it's a cool backdrop to this thing. Kind of unsettling. So loud now. Everything's on. all the switches got flipped there. I feel like there's even more guitar layers. There's been bigger moments, but there's been a lot of dynamics, right? Palm muting, nothing goes on too long. So to just slap you in the face with everything they possibly have, every channel and mixing board turned up, figuratively speaking, coming out of that bass intro, it's a really cool effect. I hear like secondary vocals, some oohs and ahs, as they say, just a lot going on. So big pinnacle moment here. Let's go into that. And that feedback kind of brings it in really well. Oh, that kind of thing. Wow, that's washy. Yeah, really fun tune. I think I thought this band was heavier, and I think they're heavy. They almost kind of have this hardcore thing in the vocals, but I'm just talking about the tonality. It was all very uplifting, very major key. I might have had a bit of priming. Dillinger Four. I do know the Dillinger Escape Plan. I got them kind of confused at first. Just Dillinger, right? That's kind of an odd word to use in a band name you don't hear every day. So I don't know. I thought this might be a heavier band. I still think they have some of those elements, but again, just the tonality is really, really kind of epic. The first song I heard a couple months ago, I think it was called Like Spreewels on a Wheelchair. And I think the observation I made was that the vocal style isn't totally my favorite, but I do like certain points when there's multiple layers of vocals and there's a little bit more melody in them because the songs are so melodic. And that's what I really was surprised to hear in their sound. I thought they might be a lot more, I don't know, just something different. So this has been the highest requested Dillinger Four song I've heard. Folk song. I've seen it forever. I don't get the feeling they're a very, very big band, which usually means they don't get tons of votes. And it's just one of those bands that always sits just kind of floating on the surface, but I never quite grab it with the fishing line, as they say. So thanks to you guys on Patreon for voting them in. It's a band I would love to hear more of in the sense that I really dig the bass riffs, just letting the bass lead. I'm always up for hearing more from bands like that really have like a, hey, we need to use this guy for more than just being the root notes in the background. I love the way it brought in the song. I love the way it kind of brought in that bridge section. It had a really unique tone and presence, kind of a guitar-like approach on the drive. I'd be curious to know what the player's using. I think his name's Patrick Costello. It didn't have a ton of credentials on the Wikipedia page for this album, but I think Patrick has been in the band from the start, so I assume that's him on bass. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Come support the channel further on Patreon, but if Patreon isn't really your thing, I now have a merch store, shoplowend.com. Get yourself some swag, tons of accessories, stickers, you name it. All of this stuff goes back into the channel to make things like bringing Joe Raposo here in person, and I know that format has seemed to be a big hit. I would love to do it again. I know this video is back to regular programming, but I do have one more video with Joe going up this Friday. It's a full interview about bomber basses and getting nerdy on the specs and the history. Make sure you subscribe. I do not want you guys to miss that. I've gotten so many questions about the bomber bass, and we'll talk about all of it this Friday with more of an extended sit-down interview. I love you all. See you there. See you next time.